Spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we are here. NBA season is upon us. If you didn't check out, make sure to check out the Western Conference preview that just dropped with my guy, Brett Usher. We dove into everything in the Western Conference, breakout players, teams, coaches, all that. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about the other coast. We're going to talk about everything in the Eastern Conference. And I got a special guest with me, my guy, Justin, from Above the Rim Podcast. What's going on, my guy?
Chris, what's going on, my brother? Appreciate the invite as always, man. You know, we've been talking hoops for a couple of years now. So, you know, whenever we get on the pod, we got some good things to say to each other, my brother. So appreciate the invite. And let's talk about this East, man. It's about to get a little sticky this season.
I know. And when I was going through all like, all right, well, what I'm going to do for content, I was thinking about, all right, who should be on the list? Who should I get? And I was like, I'm gonna do an Eastern Conference, Western Conference. And I had two guys in mind. I had my guy Brett for the West. I was like, out East, gotta get Justin, man. I gotta see what's going on with my guy. So I had to hit you up. You said, let's do it. And so we ready to go. And like you said, man, the Eastern Conference it's a lot of things happened out East, man. And we're gonna get into it. We're gonna kind of go through, all these teams out East. And talk about even the sorry teams. We're gonna talk about a little bit, even the sorry teams, And let's get away with some of the sorry teams. Let's go with one of the sorriest teams is not the Washington Wizards. They had the number 2 pick. They took Alex Sarr, and we know what he did in the summer league. It was nasty. So nasty. it was nasty. They got a new coach. So they're starting fresh. Brian Keefe, it takes over at the helm. A lot of things going on with this Wizards team. Just give me your analysis about this team, how you feel about them going for this year. The Jordan Poole experience was interesting, man. That was interesting. They added Jonas Valanciunas. I don't know how long he'll be there. He'll probably be someone that would definitely be a hot commodity come the trade deadline. Danny Advia is gone. They traded him to the Blazers. Tyus Jones signed very late and went to the Suns. So just give me your quick thoughts on the Washington Wizards, man.
I mean, I don't know if there are many thoughts about the Washington Wizards, you know what I mean? But they will be a bottom feeder, as I think a lot of us will expect them to be. I mean, nobody's really thinking too much of the Washington Wizards. No one is thinking that they can compete really too much in the conference, let alone the division. But there is some intrigue, I guess, seeing what Alex Sarr can do. I mean, he was a high draft pick, of course. The streets don't really know too much about him, so it's going to be a lot of evaluations on him and what he can really bring to the table for the Wizards. And, I feel like they just started picking up guys just to fill out the roster. Like, I don't know what direction they're going in. You know what I mean? Jordan Poole is Jordan Poole. He's a good scorer. Nothing more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Kuzma, what's even going on with him? Is he even going to last the season? I feel like we ask that every year. Is he the leader of that team? We don't know. Malcolm Brogdon, I don't know what's going to happen with them there either, if he's even going to last. So the Wizards, TBD. That's what I'm going to use for that team. TBD.
No, 100%. And I forgot they also drafted Bob Carrington, who I think will I think is a sleeper rookie of the year candidate because I think he'll get opportunities because I think a bunch of those guys Yeah, he'll get the, and I think a bunch of those guys they'll probably try to flip at the deadline, But yeah, Washington's in a rebuild mode. They'll probably be in contention, for that top pick in the 2025 draft. So it's definitely a rebuild. It's a tough job, man. It's a tough job. So we'll see what happens with Washington. But yeah, we not much going on there, but some intriguing. It's obviously Sarr is going to be intriguing because obviously he struggled shooting, but he still has some upside. He still has some defensive potential that that Washington obviously liked. That's why they took him that high. So it's going to be intriguing to see what happens. How they implement some of their vets and if they'll be there at the deadline. But Washington's definitely in true rebuild mode, and it's going to be we'll see what happens with them. But let's talk about another team that had the number 1 pick in the draft and is they're in one of those situations where they don't know which way to go, and they're in a very precarious situation, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. No playoffs last year. Quinn Snyder at the helm made a big trade with DeJounte Murray. Obviously, he goes to the 2 New Orleans Pelicans, and they bring back Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance in that trade. And obviously, they took Zachary Ricochet with the number 1 pick in the draft last year. Obviously, we got Trae Young there, and it's a very crucial year for this franchise.
Absolutely.
Essentially, like, which way do we go? So, just like, which way you think they're going? Like, is Trae going to be there this season? Like, is he going to get? We heard the trade rumors last season, and I think this year they might just get even louder. So, you think that they try to, are they going to try to go for it, to try to be a playoff team, or is this, hey man, we might have to truly rebuild?
Yes, it's actually really going to get interesting with the Atlanta Hawks because they're one of those weird teams that's usually stuck in purgatory. Like some years they're the 8th seed, some years they're the 9th seed. They get into the play-in, but then they're not really good enough to advance. But then technically one year they did advance when they beat, who did they beat? I think that was the Heat, right? Somebody they beat to get in where they played the Celtics in the first round. So you try to, as an organization, you think, is that a fluke year? What can we do to improve on this? Clearly, they weren't good enough last year. That's why they got a high pick in this draft. So now the question is, do we move on? Is Zachariah enough of a transitional franchise star that we can move away from our current franchise star?
Yeah,
I don't know. And I'll talk about him the same way I talked about Alex Hall. The streets don't really know too much about him yet. So he's another player who's TBD going into the NBA season, because not every player can transition their game to the NBA style of play that easily. There's always a transitional period. There's always things you need to work on. You got to bulk up a little bit. You got to deal with the referee. So he clearly, what I'm saying is clearly he can't be relied on yet, right? So now the focus shifts to Trae Young. So are you going to ask Trae Young to be his normal self? Trae Young is going to put on stats, but do those stats translate to wins? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So that's really the predicament that the Hawks front office really has to evaluate, and what they really have to decide amongst themselves. Do we move on to Trae Young? Is he enough of a piece? And then also, what am I going to get back for Trae Young? Am I going to get a Cinnabon back? Some pretzels? What am I gonna get back for
100%.
Trae Young? If it's pennies on a dollar, I don't want to give him up. But if they're getting a solid piece back for him, then I think that's a avenue that they need to strongly consider. But right now, it's going to be a wait and see period for him. I think this is going to drag on pretty much to the deadline if another team doesn't come with a good offer. So the Hawks, they're another team in TBD right now. Purgatory for them.
They really are, and they have some good pieces too. Like, they still got Capella. It feels like Capella's been on the trade block forever.
Yeah.
They have Okongwu. Jalen Johnson keeps getting better and better. Like, he can be he's possibly a candidate to be a breakout, player. I mean, he already had a breakout season, but he could really take that next step. So they have pieces that are and they got Trae Young, dog. People forget, man, that's 25 and 10. Easy. That's not a lot of dudes who could do that. So like they still have a high caliber player there. So it's like you can understand why, like, okay, we we still want to try and go for it. But then it's been, like you said, 8 seed play-in, and it's just like, all right, ever since we made the conference finals in 2020, that's, the COVID year, like, it's just like, all right, we just keep, running to the wall, and we just can't figure out. We had all this talent, and now it's all right. Like, and then, like you said, Trae Young stuff, like, what's his value? Because we if you believe all the rumors you hear, that his value isn't as high as you would think. So, like you said, like, what do we get? What is the market for him?
Yeah, they're gonna find out very quickly what the market is for him. And what teams are willing to give up, especially if the rumors start to come that he wants out. Then the deals get less. When teams start realizing that he does want out, and he already told them. So they're in a tricky spot, and it's they should actually be looking into it to see what deals they can get. I'm sure they probably did, but we'll see how that works out, man.
Yeah, they got to do that before he actually says, "Hey, I'm bouncing. Exactly. I want out of Atlanta."
Exactly.
And then Landry Fields really has his he really has his he's gonna have a tough time trying to figure things out, because then now you got to do the full rebuild, and it could be it's scary. That's scary times when you're like, man, we gotta, we had this window. This window was open. Like, we went to the conference finals, and whether people say it's a fluke or not, it's whatever. But, like, we had the squad to potentially make something of this, and we squandered it. And the NBA, that the window used to be a lot more open. Now it's not as much. Like, you have every team, regardless of how young they are, their window is small. You have that 3-4 years where you we gotta take advantage of this, because then we know how the extensions, and now with the apron, nobody wants to be in that second apron, because then that restricts you, and then you're stuck. So teams want to take advantage now. And you're seeing with Boston. We'll talk about Boston. We talk about my Knicks. They're going all in.
Yeah, we need to get to these juicy teams, brother. We need to get to these juicy teams.
We're gonna get the stank out a little bit. Speaking of another stank, the Brooklyn Nets. Like I said, I want to get the stank out first, and then we can enjoy, talking about some of these good teams. The Brooklyn Nets, man. It's crazy to think just a few years ago, dog. We were talking about, okay, how many chips can this team win, right? How many? And that was just with Kai and KD. Then they added James to this, and it's like, oh man, damn, man, they're gonna win back to back. They're gonna win one at least, right? At least one.
Mm-hmm.
We come 4 years later, and not a single one of those guys are on this team. And this team is led by. Let me give you some of the guys that they have.
Recheck. Fix your glasses and check that list, man.
Let me check. They got Killian Hayes, Zaire Williams. They re-signed Nick Claxton. They have a coach that I've never heard of, homie. Jordy Fernandez. It's they got Cam Thomas. He's a bucket. I'll give him his he is a bucket. Yes. But this team looks a lot different than it did just a few years ago.
Don't forget the international goat Schroeder. Got Schroeder.
They got Dennis Schroeder. Germany's finest. Germany's greatest import. So like. There's not much to really talk about. I mean, they made the trade with obviously New York to trade Mikal Bridges, and they got a boatload of picks in return. Yeah. So they realized, hey man, it's full rebuild time, and we gotta figure out how to get back to where we were before the KD and Kyrie moves, because you saw that team and you're like, okay, they got something going here, So they're gonna try to they're obviously looking for ways to get back to, but we'll just give me your quick thoughts on Brooklyn and what's going on.
Yeah, full rebuild mode for Brooklyn. I'm very disappointed in the front office. I root for the Nets. I want them to do well. I root for the Knicks too. I want both to do well. But the front office has disappointed the streets, man. I'm gonna keep going back to the streets. The front office has disappointed everybody with letting go some of the quality pieces that the Nets have had. Obviously we are in a rebuild mode. But my problem with the Nets is that, why are they banking on Ben Simmons' health? Like they're banking on it right now, like putting out all these summer videos. The Asian coming out and talking, saying that he's 100% fully ready. He's about to be at all-star level again. You know, all of these summertime catfish Ben
Yeah,
Simmons
it's
videos that
definitely a
they're putting
catfish.
out.
That's a good one.
All of these and I'm sick and tired of it. We go through this year after
I'm
year after
with you.
year. He's racking in the checks. He's getting his change. I never want to talk about anybody's pockets, but Ben Simmons
Hmm.
is racking in those checks with zero production. Now, they're banking a lot on him being healthy. I don't know why. Maybe they see something that we clearly haven't seen. But, they can be, a solid, I would say 30 win team, 30 to 40 win team. I don't know if that's even a stretch, but, I think they're going to get a couple of sneak wins, when teams are not caring about who they play, because Nick Claxton is still solid. Cam Thomas could still give you 20 to 30. And Ben
Yeah.
Simmons, he could give you a strong 5-5-5. He'll give you a strong one,
Strong.
a strong 5-5-5. But other than
Yup.
that, the Nets are in for a long year, my brother. We in for a long year.
Yeah, man. It's but there could be, what's that saying? A brighter side on the whatever that saying is. I know you guys think that saying that I'm trying to figure out it is.
Yeah,
They could be
yeah.
with if they're bad enough and they get the number one pick next year.
True.
Because there's a lot of blue chippers coming out next year, so that could be
Indeed.
worth going through this turmoil. But we'll see what happens, and maybe listen. I really did like what they did before they went to the KD Kyrie route. It felt like they were building a nice little squad
They
there.
were.
And
They
and,
were.
and listen, I listen, if KD's on the market and you could get him, I'll never sham a team. You got to go after KD. So it makes sense. But I think they learned a lot from that. Like, okay,
Yes.
we got to stick. Listen, they're going to be the little brother in New York. So we got to do things a little bit different, and I think this is the route they probably got to go through. Don't worry about trying to get the big fish. Like, hey, let's try to build and let's do it that way and see how that goes. So we'll see what happens in Brooklyn. But definitely, it's crazy. It looks a lot different in Brooklyn than it did just a few years ago. But
Without a doubt.
let's talk about another team that has struggled in the last few years, has some talent, but has definitely not. It's been a while since they made the playoffs, and the Charlotte Hornets. They re-signed Miles Bridges. Regardless of I know he's a very controversial figure, but on the court he shows up and he balls out, and they re-signed him. They brought in Seth Curry, they brought in Todd Gishman, they brought in some vets, to help teach these young guys because they are a young team, and they bring in some solid vets to bring in Josh Green, who to trade in from Dallas. Bring in Harry Giles too, see if he has anything. He's been rattled with injuries, but new head coach, so they'll obviously LaMelo is what makes he's the conductor, and they go as he goes. Problem is he doesn't go a lot. He gets stuck, and we know living in New York, the trains, it's just like that. It's like, we keep waiting. And you're like, it's just like, okay, is this ever going to happen with him? And so this Charlotte team is very intriguing. They got some Mark Williams, they got some pieces. They drafted TJ Saloon, Tijon Saloon in the top 10 to get a jumbo wing, another big wing that they can have on that team with LaMelo at the point. So just give me, what are you feeling about Charlotte? Are we going to see them finally take at least a little bit of a step, or is it just like, all right, man, like I'm not buying into this anymore?
Listen here, Chris. I may shock you on this, but on the lowest of keys, I'm actually feeling what the Hornets are doing on the lowest of keys.
Okay.
On the very, very lowest of keys. Obviously, we know LaMelo Ball is the big fish, the piece. He only played 22 games last year, I believe. 22 games. What was it? His ankle, I believe. Something with his foot. I believe it was ankle. Yes, but the reason why I think the Charlotte Hornets are moving in the right direction. It's because I'm a big fan of their new coach. Brought up how they got a new coach, Charles Lee.
Honestly,
He
yeah.
is a solid guy. I don't know if a lot of people have been checking out there. They had some all access training camp or all access, something that they were doing in the summer. That the Hornets were putting out those videos. Coach Charles Lee, he's been excellent so far. You
Mhm.
know, he's a new young head coach. He has the pulse of the team. You know, young guys really listen to a guy who can really come in and be a leader of men. Now I know they have some young guys on that team, but they have to learn how to be professionals. They have to learn how to be pros in the league. And this is a guy that I believe can help them do it. I think he has the right spirit, the right philosophies. He preaches a defensive style philosophy. He wants them to have a defensive identity, even though they're not really a defensive team. But having that edge of mentality is always the best first way to go. But I do like a little bit what the Hornets are doing if LaMelo Ball is healthy, because when he's healthy, this team can go. This team can
100%, bro.
really get up and down the floor. They're a fast-paced team. They run the break. LaMelo Ball is obviously 1, 2, and 3 the key for this Charlotte Hornets team. You know what I mean? So Miles Bridges, as you said before, he always puts up great production. Nick Richards was solid a little bit last year. Josh
Yeah.
Green picking up. And Brandon Miller. How are we even talking about Brandon Miller?
Brandon Miller, yeah.
He should be taking a leap forward in year 2 now. So we'll see how that's going to shape out. But I really like what the Hornets are doing. I feel like they can actually sneak into the play-in, and I think that's
Okay.
a step up for them. I think it's going to be tough, but I think they can be able to sneak into that 10th spot, health depending, of course. You know, obviously.
Help.
But I think LaMelo's going to ball out this season. It's about time anyway.
It's about time, and it has to be, man, because he's their franchise player.
Yeah.
But I could see a world where they're like, okay, you know what? I don't know how serious he is about hoop. I know Brandon Miller is, though. I know Brandon Miller is, and this is me talking as the GM, vice president, whoever's making. I'm like, man, should we talk to teams about LaMelo? See what that is, because to me, I'm building the team around Brandon Miller. That's who, because that's who my franchise guy is, and I just question if LaMelo is 100% all in on hoop. I know I know he likes hoop, but does he like it because what it brings for him? The attention, the fame, the money.
Question. Valid question.
And I had this issue, and I mentioned this when I did the draft stuff in 2020, and I remember talking to some scout. I'm like, yo, is this something that is a thing still? Like with and they're like, some people are like, maybe, but I think he'll be all right. I don't think LeVar is going to be an issue. I don't think he's going to be in his head. But I was like, I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about when he gets that extension and he starts getting a little, notice, maybe if he's an all-star, whatever. Like, will this be a little bit concerned about his love for the game? If to be a franchise, and listen, not everyone gonna love hoop the way Kobe did, and we all are LeBron, but to be the franchise guy, you gotta have that. And I still question that. I still question that, and I just wonder if man, maybe we should be all in on Brandon Miller and try to build a team around him. Then keep thinking, all right, if LaMelo's healthy, like what if he isn't healthy? What if a repeat again? He's not healthy. And so that's just my thing. Question. That's just my thing with the Charlotte.
That's a very, 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 very valid question. I think you're going to get an answer to that question very early in the season. I feel like in the first 20 games, 30 games, they're going to be evaluating who's the alpha on this team. Is Brandon Miller time to take over, or LaMelo, or are you going to do something? So you're going to get the answer to that question very quickly.
I think so. And that's my thing with Charlotte is, okay,
yeah.
Is LaMelo really our franchise guy, or is it really Brandon Miller? Because if it's Brandon Miller, we got to figure out how to build a team around him, because he showed last year that, okay, like especially late, he came on like, oh, he's averaging, he hooping. Absolutely. Okay. And we know what it is. Premier wings, man. Those are what teams like to build around. So that's my thing with Charlotte is that I could see that being something. So we'll see what happens. But Charles, he's he came from Boston. You hear a lot of good things about him. The development of Jason Tatum, the development of Jaylen Brown really helped those guys elevate. their game. So hopefully he could do that. And that's why I like that. And that was another thing thinking, it's like, man, he's good with wings, saying we'll see. And I think that's why they took Tijon Saloon too. He's a risk, but I think they feel comfortable with Charles Lee developing him. And they probably saw some Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown and was like, all right, coach, try to do your magic. I know those are different, like, those guys came into a good situation, but we trust you with this. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens. All right. Let's go. Let's see. Let's go. Another team in flux, another ball that hopefully gets to play. We haven't seen him playing the ball in a while. Lonzo Ball, but let's talk about the Chicago Bulls, another team that's just is rebuild time. They rebuild time. Billy Donovan at the helm. They re-signed Patrick Williams to a 5-year deal. Added Chris Duarte, added Josh Giddey in the trade to OKC. Added Jalen Smith, drafted Montez Buzelis from the G League. In the lottery. So they lost DeMar. DeMar is with the Sacramento Kings now. Alex Caruso gone to Oklahoma City. Andre Drummond goes to the Philadelphia 76ers, but this team's in rebuild mode. Kobe White hooped last year, played really good basketball last year. So some bright spots, not a lot, but some bright spots for this team. Hopefully you get something of Lonzo Ball. I don't know if you're going to expect to see early Lonzo Ball when he first came to Chicago, or even some of the time, when he was at the Pelicans. But you want to at least see him on the court, because at least to know, like, man, 2 years, man, at least you accomplish. That's a big accomplishment, especially with that injury that he had. So Chicago, man, what's going on, man? What we feeling about Chi-Town, man?
I got 2 words for Chi-Town: guard heavy. I don't know. This lineup, this whole roster is guard heavy. Why are there so many guards? And I didn't even realize that they had THT, Taylor Horton Tucker. I didn't even
they
know.
got him a few weeks ago.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and I'm just like, hold on, they added more guards.
Forgot about Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine. Who was it? Javon Carter there. Was Duarte, Lonzo Ball coming back, Kobe White, Josh
Primo, Ayo Dosunmu. Like, they got a lot, yo. That's all that is.
Listen, there's too many guards on this team, which tells me a deal is happening. It has to be. So the Chicago Bulls are the number 1 team on my trade watch going into the season, because they have to make a deal sooner rather than later, because you can't go into the season. I mean, you could go into the season, but you can't go through a whole season with all of these guards on your roster and expect to compete. Unless they're not looking to compete, then that's a different story. But I assume they're trying to compete. So with that being said, they got to make a deal. There's too many guards, brother.
You know what they need to do? If Zach's healthy, just let him rock hold. Just let him put the rock. Just use your trade be 40%.
Up that trade value?
Up that trade value, baby, because right now it's nothing. And he's got, I think, 2 or 3 years left on his contract at a crazy amount of 120 something in that range, $130 million left on his contract. Hey, Zach, we ain't gonna be good this year. We want you gone. That's what I would do, honestly, because you need to showcase him, because you need to get rid of that contract. You gotta, because you're in rebuild mode, and like you said, we got a bunch of guards, hella guards. So we got something got to give. Absolutely. If I'm them, hey, man, Zach, man, you do your thing, man. Try to, but because
that should be the move. We'll see.
They are actively, like, it's kind of like they're just saying, like, we are trying to trade him, but we're not getting anywhere. So the only other alternative is we're probably gonna have to start the season with him, right? Might as well just say, take it. Hey, do your thing, man. Try to play. If you're close to anything that you were before the injury, then maybe we can get something going and we could ship you out. But if not, you got to hold on to that for a few more years, and then that's going to be tough. Or try to attach. The only other way is attach a draft pick, and if you're Chicago, there's not a chance you're doing that. You shouldn't, right? That's just bad business. Your best
straight asset. You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, so like they're in a situation like that, and then the Lonzo situation. That's they're They're in another spot. They're one of those other teams where they're in a worse situation than Charlotte. But they're right there. I mean, I don't know, Brooklyn bad or Washington bad, but it's like, man, it's there. It's the bottom tier for sure.
Yeah, that whole crop of like 5 or 6 teams there at the bottom of the East, they're like all gonna be clumped together. So that's gonna be a battle of the bottom feeders.
Yeah, and they got Vucevic too. They have a bunch of guys who are like good players, but then like nobody wants to trade for them.
Exactly.
So like to me, that's just like, oh man, we in a bad spot. So you got to try to showcase them, try at least in the beginning and see if somebody bites. Somebody gets desperate for a big because we know the bigs. It teams need bigs, so maybe somebody goes try to get Vooch. It's Chicago's. It's tough times in Chi-Town. Tough times. But see what the youngster Buzelis does. He brings a lot of energy. Not a great shooter, but see if Patrick Williams maybe takes the next step. Just got a big contract. Maybe he can elevate his game. With more of a bigger role. But it's gonna be tough. I mean, without DeRozan, where it might be tough to get points there. So we'll see what happens in the shot. But it's definitely tough times. All right, one more stanky team. One more stanky team. Right? I think we got one more. Yeah, one more stanky team. Detroit Pistons. Man, they did the stank over there last year. It was bad stank, but it wasn't stanky enough because they didn't get the number 1 pick. So it backfired on them in a way. They got the 5th pick. Rough year last year for the Detroit Pistons. They bring in JB Bickerstaff, who was let go by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they got the 5th pick in the draft. Took Ron Holland, another G League guy. Who's a super athletic player, but they bring in Tobias Harris, who I don't know if he's allowed back in the East Coast or in the Northeast. Philly, he's definitely not welcome back in Philly.
Another guy collecting checks.
Man, he don't just get checks. It's like Kirk Cousins almost.
Yeah,
right?
Oh yeah, well at least Kirk Cousins is producing. You see him last night.
At least Kirk will be producing it, and sometimes where he looks like he's elite, but man, they get, I think it was 2 years, $60 million. I think it's a team option for the 2nd year, I believe. Yeah. But they bring Malik Beasley also in on the 1 year. Like I said, drafted. They traded Quentin Grimes he goes to Dallas. They lost James Wiseman, who they got from the Golden State Warriors for your back. He goes to Indiana, but what's your thoughts on this? Is it JB going there? Does he? He's a vet coach who's is good with these rebuilds and can help at least establish a good foundation. And they're going to need it. They got a lot of young guys on this team. They got So what is your feeling on this team, man? What do you think the direction is?
Dude, they were last in the East last year. I think they're gonna be second to last this year. I wouldn't disrespect and go last because I think there's a team worse than them as in the Wizards, but they're gonna be neck and neck battling again for the worst team in the Eastern Conference, probably maybe in the league because they have pieces, but I mean, like nothing there really fits. Nothing there really matches.
It's all like the Ivy and Cade. Like now, Ivy gonna come off the bench. He's a starter though, and it's
he's a starter. I think he's a starter.
I think he's a starter. They drafted Asar Thompson high, like, and like I said, they just drafted
Duren. What they doing with him? Is he their piece coming forward? Maybe.
It's just like it just feels like the construction.
Tim Hardaway Jr. They picked up. Like why? Like who else? There was another guard. Was it Malik Beasley?
Malik Beasley,
like Beasley. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tobias. And then they were all smiles on media day, so they were in a good mood. As a team, and it starts off well. It starts off sweet. When we get to game 10 and y'all are like 1-9.
Yeah, it's like white. They're like the White Castle of the NBA, man. It's just like at first everything good, it looks good, and then like you get a little bit into that, and you're like, oh, that's why I shouldn't have done that, man. They're the White Castle of the NBA, man. It's just bad. It's gonna be bad.
Bad decision.
I don't get the roster construction. To me, it's all over the place, man. It's not. I don't like it. I didn't like it last year. Cade is a hoop. I like Cade. I think Cade's solid, but we don't. He's he's in the same realm for me as LaMelo. It's like, okay, man, you keep getting these passes, and eventually it's like, okay,
we
like
got to see him in a winning situation.
We got to see you do it. Like, we got to see you do this, man. You know, and I don't know if Ivy's I know Ivy's not happy. There's not a chance he's happy.
Yeah, no
at all. Situation. So like, what do they do with that? You know, Duren is, you know, what is that situation? Like, he's been in trade rumors. So it's like, I don't know. This team's just, I don't like it. Like I said, I'm with you. They're right there with the Washington as far as being bottom tier. I don't like the roster construction. JB there, and I mean, he's gonna preach defense and he's gonna install that. But man, I think this is gonna be a few years before they're back or to being a respectable, maybe even play a play-in type team. I think that's a few years away. But I don't like this squad a lot, man. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done for them to even be considered like a 30-win ball club, you know?
I mean, yeah, that's a stretch. The 30 wins. That's a stretch. I'm right there with you, man. And
that's a stretch, right? Like, I just not crazy about them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They need to, we need to see what Cade is. If he's that, we've been hearing about that he's that type of player. He's that 25, 6-6 type of guy. Like, okay, I mean, this is the year to do it. I mean, you know, we got to see. You got to stay healthy too. He's another one been banged up. Toronto Raptors, man. Let's talk about Toronto. Let's go to the 6. They another team that went through a lot of changes. You know, last year they made the big trade with my New York Knicks. They traded OG Anunoby, you know, to the New York Knicks, get Emmanuel quickly, get RJ Barrett. They re-signed Emmanuel quickly to a nice, really big contract. Good for him. I'm happy for him. Always root for my New York Knickerbockers, you know, regardless if they're here or not. But you know, they got Scotty Barnes, who another one who signed a big time extension. You know, they traded for Davion Mitchell. You know, lost a few guys. You know, Gary Trent was there for a little bit. He's gone. He went to Milwaukee. But obviously, this is a team they got good pieces, but they're still. I mean, they struggled last year. They
through transition.
They're going through a transition, and I'm trying to figure them out. They drafted Jacoby Walter, a guy I liked a lot. They drafted him with the 19th pick, but I'm still trying to figure out. Okay, like, is this a team that's trying to be like a top 8 seed, or are they still trying to figure out, like, because they have ready-made players, like I say, RJ's there, you know, quickly, Scotty Barnes, who's a borderline like all NBA type player. So it's like, okay, should we buy into this? Do we buy into Toronto, or are they still, you know, a big piece away? So we're feeling about the Toronto Raptors.
They are another team in a bit of a transition. You know what I mean? They have some good pieces. You know, RJ, you know, former Knick. I always root for RJ Barrett. Hope for great success with him over there in Toronto. But they have a lot of pieces that are right in the same range. RJ, Bruce Brown.
I forgot to have Bruce Brown.
Yeah, they're all in the same tier of like playing the 2, playing the 3, or the 4 sometimes. It's a small stretch 4, but you know, they do have to have some. I mean, they have to find their identity. They don't have an identity right now as a team. So I think that's what the issue is with the Toronto Raptors. And low key, I love their pick of Jamal Shead out of Houston, small guard, out of Houston. He's an NBA ready guy. So that's my personal thing with them. I would love to see him get some minutes there in a semi-rebuilding year, because I don't know if they think they're rebuilding, but they're not in the upper echelon of teams. But maybe they get lucky. Who knows? Because they have some pieces who are formidable, but quickly there too. I'm thinking quickly. So we'll see what's going on with the Toronto Raptors. But I think they're gonna be, you know, in the play-in mix. I think.
I could see them being in the play-in mix too. They got Grady Dick, who they took last year.
Who's worse than them?
Yeah, there's team. Yeah, definitely. And then like Jakob Poeltl's a solid big. So they have if you look at their roster just on paper, you're like, okay, like just off the top of your head, you're like, I could see them being played. It's not terrible. And you wouldn't be surprised if they're the 10th seed in the play-in, right? That wouldn't shock me, right? But but it's still like, okay, like obviously they're a different team than they were just a few years ago, but they got some pieces. They're not it's not all bad in Toronto.
Exactly.
Like they got, I think there's another level to Emmanuel Quickly's game. I truly believe that there's another level to his game. RJ, with a more, bigger role, not just trying to be like what he was in New York, where it was kind of just like a standalone, 3-point shooter. That wasn't really his game. Now he could truly be more of a slasher, but I like Darko as a coach. I think he's a good coach. Did some good things, and I think like I said, Jamal Shed, I like him a lot too. He's a hooper. They got some guys. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're in a play-in. I would not be surprised if they're a play-in team, because I think Emmanuel quickly has another level to his game. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses, because I've been a big IQ guy, obviously in New York, but even when he was at Kentucky, man, I thought he was crazy underrated. So I think they got some things going on in Toronto. That it's not all bad. It could definitely be a lot worse. How about that? It could definitely be a lot worse. So they definitely got some pieces. All right, let's talk about some exciting teams, man. Let's get into it, and let's talk right here. Talk about the defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. They ran through the East, man. They ran through the Eastern Conference. It was a breeze in the playoffs. Now, listen, I know people are gonna talk about their chip. Same way like with when the Warriors won that first chip. Oh, well, this team got hurt in the first round. That team got hurt. This team got hurt. You only played against no Kyrie. And this same thing will happen with Boston, right? A lot of the teams they played against were banged up. Cleveland was banged up. Miami didn't have Jimmy. Pacers, no Halliburton. But hey, they got to the finals, and then they took care of business against a team that was relatively healthy in Dallas. But they re-signed Jason Tatum to a whole lot of money. Lot of money. My man got paid. They even paid Sam Hauser, who had some big shots in the playoffs for them. I had some moments, and then they figured that his shooting can just keep getting better. Drafted Baylor Shireman out of Creighton, guy I like a lot in the draft. I think he's a 6'9", pass, can shoot, can do a lot of things. I think he fits perfect. He's like the perfect Boston Celtic, and it makes me sick low key, but the perfect Boston Celtic. So obviously, man, they built a low key super team last year. That starting lineup was the best starting lineup in basketball. Porzingis is out. He's going to miss some time. I don't know how long, maybe till the All-Star break around that time, January. He's going to be out for a minute. But they still have a formidable lineup with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP. I'm forgetting his name. I'm forgetting his Derek White. Mr. Olympia. My bad, Derek White. He got paid too. So they got pieces, man. Boston Celtics. Mazzulla caught a lot of flack that first year, but I'm like, that was his first. He was like fourth in line to be a head coach, and they decided to make him, he was like the fourth assistant, and then he had to be the head coach and take over, situation. And then in 2 years, he's a world champion. I think he's getting better and better as a coach. So Boston Celtics, is it Boston versus the East? Is it like who we taking? Is it Boston or the field? Like, can they repeat as NBA champions?
Can they? Yes. Do I think they will? Maybe. I don't know. I'm very on the fence of Boston because I like their roster. Everybody knows that I'm a big Jason Tatum guy. I'm a big Jason Tatum supporter. That's one of my favorite players in the league. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary flack, from the streets for no reason. But my man does get it done. He's been a winner since he's been in the NBA, and he finally got it done. You have to give him his respect. He's in the playoffs every year, deep into the playoffs, not a first round and out. So I don't think he gets enough credit for that, as well as Jaylen Brown. I don't think both of them get enough credit for consistently being good year after year and having a great team. But this year, they're gonna have their work cut out for them a little bit more than last year because clearly they are the defending champs. But I think they got the stamina, the mental fortitude, and most importantly, I think they got the hunger to try to get it done again. I think they're gonna be a formidable team. I think they were disrespected all summer, so a lot of them are holding that in. And I think that's the makings of a repeat champion, somebody who has another piece of motivation going into the next season after winning the title, because it's hard sometimes. So there's not much to be said about the Celtics. They are the best team in the East, in my opinion. And I think everyone has to try to take those guys out. So count on the Celtics to still be number 1 seed, number 2 at worst. But I think they're still going to end up being the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I still think they are. I think they'll finish. I don't know if they'll go further trying to be the best team in the East. I think they're the type of team that's like, hey, just get top 4 seed. And we'll rock out. We could beat anyone on any court. It don't really matter.
But their guys don't really get injured that much. It's really only Porzingis.
Yeah, really. It's really just Porzingis. They've been relatively healthy, and that's all part of the building a team. Is like we talked about the teams we talked about before. A lot of their star players are often hurt. Yeah. Boston has been relatively healthy, and they still got their core. Their core is still, playing at a high level. Drew, Derek, Jalen, and Jason. I just think, I still think that there's still motivation there. Like obviously when you win a championship, especially when you've been together with that core and you finally win that first one, you're like, oh, all right, you get the monkey off the shoulder, but it's like, all right, there's these people still doubting us. Like there's people say, oh, well, like I mentioned before with the injuries, like, oh, well, you went a bit banged up Pacers team. You went against no Jimmy on Miami. The Cavs, Donovan Mitchell was hurt. So you went against teams that were hurt. So if you're Boston, you're like, okay, well, guess what? We're going to ramp things up again. And we're going to show you guys. And you don't think Jason Tatum, listen, you don't think Jason Tatum, and I know he struggled shooting, but the man did everything else at an elite level. His passing was the first thing that I said, I need to see him become a better playmaker. And that's what he did. He couldn't find his shot. He didn't force it. He became a great playmaker. Rebounding, he was 10 a game, man. That was dominating the boards and all. But that chip of not winning that finals MVP, that's something. I think it's something. Like to show, like, oh, y'all don't think, oh, all right, I'm gonna show y'all. It's just that, it's like that Steph thing. Like, okay, and even though it shouldn't be a big deal, but it is a deal. It is a deal. It is something. So that's motivation of, hey man, y'all don't think that because I didn't shoot the ball well. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna show y'all. And I think they still, they're, like I said, that starting lineup, just gotta wait for Porzingis, but I still think they got enough depth, Al Horford, the old vet, I think they're still gonna be all right. And I don't know if they'll push for the number 1 seed, but I think Boston's still gonna be the thing is and swinging things. And I'll give my prediction of if I think they'll be in the Eastern Conference and later, but they're definitely still a juggernaut, and wouldn't be surprised if they represented the East. But I'll give that prediction later. But man, Boston, they had a nice little offseason, re-signed their guys. I think I like their draft pick. They're definitely still the Boston Celtics, man. They just what Brad Stevens has done when he first got to the NBA as being a head coach, doing a really good job with that, and then going up and being executive and just killing that too is just like, man, that's just great basketball. He's a great basketball mind.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They made a move at the head coach spot. JB no longer there. They're bringing Kenny Atkinson. To their they re-signed. Everybody re-signed. I mean, this was a team that maybe people thought, do they make moves? Especially with number 1 with Donovan Mitchell, and then boom, Donovan Mitchell re-signs for 3 years. They Mobley gets the rookie extension. Jared Allen gets an extension. They re-sign Isaac Okoro, who's a solid piece. Good defender. So this team definitely did a lot. They drafted Jalen Tyson, the kid out of Cal, who's a scorer. They just are like, all right, we need more score, we need more shooting. They added Max Strus last year. So they're adding some more players, and then just like the more I look at this team, the more I'm like, obviously Darius Garland's there. He was banged up last year, but if he's healthy, he was an all-star, just a few years ago. So I'm I like Cleveland, man.
Mm.
I'm a big Kenny Atkinson guy. I love Kenny Atkinson. I love what he did with the Nets. He was someone that I would have loved to consider even being the Knicks coach before we got Thibs there. But I like Kenny Atkinson. I like how he develops his players, and I think that's why they went with the move. I don't know if they trusted JB with the development of their players. I think they like what Kenny Atkinson did with the development. He did some good things everywhere he's been. He's been a key contributor to where he's at. He's in Golden State, helped develop some of the bigs there. So Cleveland Cavaliers, man. I mean, I'm liking. I like what they're doing. I like what's going on in Cleveland. So talk to me about it. Well, Cleveland Cavaliers. What's your feeling about them?
I'm a little indifferent on the Cleveland Cavaliers because I was never a huge fan, of the Cavs. Like you said, they have great pieces, and they do. They're gonna be a solid, playoff caliber team. Like Donovan Mitchell, we know what he's gonna give, 20 to 30 a night. Garland's gonna give around 20 a night. I'm a big Jared Allen guy. Evan Mobley's solid too, but to me, they didn't get better. In my opinion, to me, they may have gotten marginally better, but a lot of teams in the East got marginally better. You know what I mean? So, are their additions enough to vote them into the first tier in the East? To me, no. They're still in that second, maybe third tier, but probably second. And to me, I still felt like they should have lost that series last year against the Magic. I was rooting for the Magic. I felt like the Magic should have won that series. So to me, Cleveland is still a 4, 5, 6 type of team in the East.
Okay. I think that's one of our first disagreements. I actually think they could be a top 3 seed. I could see that. I trust Kenny Atkinson. Maybe I'm too much of a truth believer, but I think he's going to elevate Mobley's game. To me, Mobley is the biggest X factor for this team. Because we wait like. This is year 4. We thought last year was going to be the true breakout year where he was going to just be a man. And listen, he was a top 3 defensive player of the year candidate. So, he's already an elite level defender. But you want to see it on the offensive end, and I just think it just wasn't the offense was just too stagnant, and he was never going to be able to expand his offense, especially when you got Donovan Mitchell there and Darius Garland. But I think Kenny's going to allow him to have the ball in his hand a little bit more, take a couple more jump shots. Because I think that's just because when you have Jared Allen there, Jared Allen's going to be the paint protector. He's everything. He's a rim runner. He's going to be, he's going to be the dunker spot. You need him to do that, So you kind of need Mobley to kind of expand. I think he's going to help develop that. I think he's going to get that out of him. So that's why I'm really high on them because obviously Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell is everything. He could lead the league in score. He's just a true bucket. When Garland's healthy, they need to figure that too, and I think they'll figure that out too. I'm just overly optimistic because of Kenny Atkinson. I think he'll figure out Donovan Mitchell and Garland how they play together, and I think he'll figure out how to get Mobley's game to expand a little bit more. Because if his game expands, I think that helps the offense spread out more, makes it more fluid, helps Jared Allen a lot. Just be everything's not going to be compacted down the paint. That's just my thinking, and I could see it happening. I believe it'll happen, and that's why I kind of like this Cavs team. I think they could be a top 3 seed. Like I truly believe that, So that's why I'm a Atkinson believer, man. I truly believe in what he does.
I'm mad at that, man.
I love the move. I think he's Charlotte. Right, he was supposed to be the Charlotte coach initially, and I thought that was a home run. Now, I like Charles Lee, but I thought Kenny Atkinson, that's exactly what they need, a coach like that. And the one that didn't work out. But I think he this is a better situation, because this is a team that's, a competitive in the conference final. So I like it. And it's not first difference, okay? Like I said, I'm a Kenny believer, man. I'm a truther. So, but yeah, Cavs, they made some good moves. So we'll see what happens. But they're going to be a part of that top of that East, that top 5, 6, where it's going to be a dogfight. And speaking of another team that was in the final 2, and lost to the Boston Celtics and beat my New York Knicks in 7. Man. Oh, man, I was hoping Jalen Brunson would give a suplex to Halliburton on SmackDown. when they were at the Garden, a few months back. But
Yeah.
the Indiana Pacers, man, they were in the final two in the Eastern Conference. Like I said, they lost in 5. They got swept or they lost in 5?
Who? The Pacers?
Pacers.
Yeah, they got swept. Yeah,
They got swept. They got swept because everybody got hurt.
Yeah.
But they re-signed TJ McConnell, to a 4-year deal. Pascal Siakam also re-signed Obi Toppin, re-signed Andrew Nembhard, all key contributors to this team. And then brought in James Wiseman, who I think this is worth it.
Yes.
I think if he's been in some tough, bad situations, and it's crazy to think that Golden State's a bad situation, but ideally they're trying to win. They were in win now mode, and they didn't really focus on developing, him. They were about trying to win championships and building that profile. And then he goes to Detroit, and that's Detroit, man. I mean, not gonna have much success in Detroit, so. They bring him in. So I think, he's going to be a nice piece there for them. But obviously Halliburton took his game to the next level last year, was an all-star, all-NBA type of player, and just, leveled up as a scorer too. We know he could do as a passer, but his scoring took another step. But this Pacers team, how are we feeling about the Indiana Pacers for this upcoming season?
The Pacers are a solid team. They're a solid team, but I still have them as a middle of the pack team, in my opinion. I still feel like they had no business in that Eastern Conference Finals last year, but that's how the playoffs work. You get the right matchup, you get some injuries, and magical things happen for them. So I still have the Pacers in that middle tier of the East, around 5, 6, 7. But if all the right pieces and the gods align, then you can make a little run. But I think, I can't even say about health because you never know this whole 82-game season. They might be healthy in the beginning, and the team loses all of their pieces by the time it gets to the playoffs. So I just think they're a middle of the pack team. I love the Wiseman pickup for them. I think it's excellent for them, and they still got some young guys that are still continuing to grow, continuing to get better every year. Pascal Siakam has been great for them, so that was still a great trade that they did, and they should feel great about that. That was a good trade, and I still think they're just gonna be middle of the pack in the East, man. They're a mid-tier team. They're in that second tier in the league, in my opinion.
I think they kind of overachieved last year, but they do have some good pieces. Obviously Miles Turner is one of the better bigs in the league.
Benedict Mathurin coming back, he's gonna be great for them,
and that's the key. If Benedict, they didn't have him last year, then to bring him back, if he's healthy, that's someone who I think has a lot of potential to be a really high-end type of 2 guard, and that could definitely relieve a lot of pressure for Tyrese as scoring, because it felt like definitely, especially when he got back from the injury, like he had to do too much of the scoring, and it was too much of a load for him, and he kind of struggled towards the end of the season, so they're going to need him, but they, Aaron Naismith too is someone they need to step up. He had some moments last year. So Obi Toppin to see if he can level up and expand his game. But they got some nice people. But yeah, I'm gonna be with you. I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's just like maybe it was just a blip and it just happened. Everything just worked out, and another team they went against the Knicks. Just everyone got hurt, and they took down, because I truly believe if the Knicks were healthy, I think the Knicks take them out in 5 or 6. But
I agree.
But hey,
I think so.
They took advantage of the injuries. I'll never hate. They wound up doing their thing, but they could. I'm with you. They could be a middle of the pack team. I think they're a playoff team. I think they'll be a top 6 seed, maybe more in that 6 range. But they got some nice things. They got nice things going. But I think they'll be in that range. I think maybe a little bit of a fluky last year, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about the Orlando Magic, led by Paolo Banchero, who is made the All-Star team last year. One of my favorite players so far. I'm a Duke fan, so I always root for my Duke Blue Devils. He definitely took another step in his game. But one thing we saw in the playoffs last year is they struggled with scoring. And Paolo had a lot to take at a young age. It was a lot for him. And we saw Franz Wagner, he struggled in that game 7, but he stepped up his game. He played good basketball for most of the season. They got the guard situation with Suggs and Cole Anthony. They took Anthony Black last year, so they got some good young pieces. They got a lot of good pieces. So How do we feel about this team? What do you think they need in order to take that next step? Because they're one of the better young teams in the league.
Well, first of all, I'll say I love the Orlando Magic as a squad. They're one of my favorite teams. Watching them, I watch every one of their games from last. I watch every team, but I watch the Magic a little bit closer than a lot of the teams. I love what the Magic have going on. Paolo Banchero is one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's going to take another step forward this season. As last year, he broke a lot of I forgot a lot of young players first ever to do a bunch of things in Magic franchise history. So I think he's in for another excellent season. I love the KCP pickup because that's what they were missing.
Yeah.
They were missing a guard. I wouldn't say a defensive mind because they were a great defensive team, but a defensive minded guard who can also score at the same time. Now, where
they needed 3-point shooting too. They needed 3-point shooting.
They just straight up needed 3-point shooting. But I think where they're still lacking, which might prevent them from taking the next step, is having a really pure point guard play. Like I like Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is solid. He's a solid guard, but he's not a playmaker. He's not a pure playmaker. He can make plays. Wrong, but he's not a playmaker. And only real people who watch basketball know what that means. You can make 100%. Plays, but not be a playmaker. So
100%.
That's the next step I feel like they need to elevate. I really think they needed to get a point guard. I wanted Fred VanVleet to go there when he was a free agent instead of going to the Rockets. I thought he would have been excellent for them. But they still are lacking in that point guard category. Who did they get the young guy? Anthony Black. He played a little.
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, last year. But he's not really ready to fully contribute. So they
he can't shoot.
He can't shoot. So they still don't really have a full playmaker on this roster, which means they're relying on more Franz Wagner and Paolo to do more of the playmaking. So I think that's the one thing that may hinder them moving forward, but I still think they are a solid team, and I think they're on pace with Cleveland, with Indiana. They're still in that second tier of the East to me, but I love what the Magic got going on.
If I'm Orlando, calling a team that's not too far away from them. We talked about this team earlier. Calling Atlanta.
I would love that.
What we got to do to make this happen. If I'm Orlando, that's what I'm doing. Because like everything you said is what I've been saying on every show when we talk about the Orlando. I trust Paolo. I know Franz struggled, but he's young. He had to do too much. He wasn't ready to take that. What did they need? They needed a point guard that can put them in the right spots and put Paolo and Franz in the best position. They had to do too much. That's what they need. Yep. Trae's that you put Trae in there, man. I'm saying that's my bold prediction.
Absolutely.
It's Trae Young, Orlando Magic.
We love it.
That's my bold prediction. And then we'll see what happens, but that's gonna be my bold prediction. What's crazy? Last year, my bold prediction was Cat was gonna be a Knick. It just happened a year later.
Wow, come on, man.
Yeah. I said it on my. You need
to find that clip. You need to find.
I got the clip too. I got the clip too. It's always a Knick. My guy's my Knicks fan, Wilden. They do a Knicks show. My guy Wilden Triple M. I said I was like, my prediction, Cat will be a Knick. It just happened a year later, but that's my prediction. I'm gonna say it on here. Clip it. Trae Young, Orlando. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. All right, Orlando Magic. Let's talk about team in Philly. Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid and them boys, they played a tough series against us, the New York Knicks. It was an entertaining series. One of the more entertaining series.
Probably the best series of the East, in my opinion.
That was definitely maybe the best series period in the playoffs. Like that was a really fun series. It brought back a lot of that New York. We know how that New York Philly rivalry is just in the streets. And then you put that, so that was a entertaining series. But Joel had another monster. He probably was on his way to winning another MVP. On his way to an MVP. So Tyrese Maxey leveled up. And obviously they get Paul George. PG-13 is there now. Is PG-13, and obviously a lot of other moves, but PG-13 is the move. Does that get them over the hump? Does PG-13 get them over the hump?
I'm gonna word it like this. PG, Paul George himself is not the answer,
Mm-hmm.
but he can help create the answer,
100%.
you know? Because I think he's a great piece. I love Paul George, great player and all of that. But his presence alone to me, like to me, it's a great fit for them. It's like kind of a match made in heaven for them for what they actually needed on their team. And adding him in addition to Tyrese Maxey, in addition to Joel Embiid, in addition to all the pieces that they did have, helps them a lot. But but Paul George added in with the rest of the pieces that they added is what I like about Philadelphia. And it took me kind of, you know, couple of weeks to really get on board with this roster because I wasn't crazy about it at first. But then once I saw the
Yep.
Caleb Martin pickup, that's when I started to really, my eyes started to pay attention to the 76ers because him being there, first of all, they were missing their power forward because they didn't have a power forward for
Mm-hmm.
the entire offseason. I forgot who was it? Oh, it was Tobias. Yeah, so once
Goodbye.
Tobias left, they didn't really have anybody to replace him. And Caleb Martin was one of their last pickups of the offseason, pretty much when they got him.
Good
So until
pickup.
they got him, the roster was incomplete. But with him, I kind of like where they're going with this because the starting lineup I saw today is going to be Embiid, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, Paul
Maxey
George,
and
and
Maxey.
Tyrese Maxey, which means
It's
Paul
a
George
nice
is starting at
lineup.
the 2. Which means Paul George is going back to the 2. That's a solid lineup with Paul George at the 2. I really like that. There's not really too many holes in that starting 5. Like there's nobody you can really attack. Maybe Maxey, but Maxey can hold his own.
Oh yeah.
No slouch. We've seen that in the playoffs. You know
He's
what I mean?
strong. Yeah, man. He has some big shots.
Yeah. So I actually am really starting to come around. I didn't
I,
want to like
me
Philly in
too.
the beginning, but I
Me
came around.
too.
Eric
I
Gordon
hate
is
it.
a solid pickup with them. Who was it? Reggie Jackson they brought up
Reggie
over there.
Jackson
Kyle
there.
Lowry they still
Yeah.
have. Drummond.
Bringing
KJ
back
Long they
Oubre.
still
Yeah, they
have.
broke back Oubre. That was big. Bringing back
Yeah,
Oubre was
so
good.
I'm starting to like Philly. I'm not gonna lie, man. I didn't want to like them, but I'm starting to like their lineup. I can't lie, I'm no hater, so I gotta
I
look at the
know, dog.
totality of the roster,
I'm
and I
with
like
you,
it.
bro. I'm with you. Like I want to hate this team so much, but if I'm just
Yeah,
pulling my basketball, if I take off the Knicks hat and I just put on my
I know.
basketball hat, I'm like,
Yeah,
I like this team. I like
yeah.
this team. Like I think
Mhm.
Maxey is a emerging star. I think Paul George as the third option, I think is maybe his ideal fit in this point of his career. So like, and Joel's Joel. If he's healthy, but that's another thing. It's gonna be health, man, because he was 60% in that Knicks series, and he still
He balled out. He balled out even
he's
throughout the injury.
so if he's healthy, or if you can get him right for the playoff run, and just be like, big dog, we got to keep you right to the playoffs. Let PG, let Maxey hold it down. Where you got your MVP, so like you good, so it's like, okay, like, all right,
Of course.
like let's just do it. And it's like, okay, I'm with you, man.
Best series of the East, man. That was the best series in the East last year.
We might see it again, man. And then you got him and Big Purr. Big Purr.
Oh God, we gotta give him a better nickname, bro. Come on, man. I can't call this guy.
I know, New York. We gotta do. I'm never calling.
We gotta
him Big
do
Purr.
better, man. We gotta do better.
There's not gonna be one time I'm calling him Big Purr, and when I'm watching again, that will never happen. But
that's the last time. You can't use it no more, man.
Last time, man. Last time. All right, let's go. Let's go with the Miami Heat. They lost in the first round. Jimmy is. We don't know what's going on with Jimmy. He's not happy. He wants to get paid. Pat Riley calling him out. A lot of things going, but they re-signed Bam. Alex Burks. They drafted a nice pick. I like Khalil Ware a lot. I think that was a good pickup for them. They did lose Caleb Martin. That's big. Is this finally going to be the year where we finally see that true regression from Miami, or are they just going to fly under the radar? Are they just going to be like, y'all forgetting about us, okay? And then they're in the finals. Like, so what we feel about Miami this year?
I thought you were gonna say, is this the year that we finally see them break through and get a championship? That's how I was like, whoa.
No. I'm right there. I can't give them that. That's the first team I ever hated, Miami. I can't give them that much credit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm disappointed in these boys, man. I thought they would have done a little bit more in the off season, to really help out their roster, help out their case, but they're relying on continuity again, for like the third consecutive year, they're relying on continuity. So Coach Spo is my favorite coach in the NBA, the best coach in my opinion in the NBA. So he's always going to have these boys ready, but it's never a problem, being coached. It's never a coaching issue being ready. It's always a problem. Do they have enough talent to compete
Yeah,
with the more talented teams? And if I'm being honest, they still right there where they were before.
I
There's
think
no
so.
there's no major improvement to me. So that's why I'm a little disappointed in those guys. But maybe they could pick up somebody. Maybe we could see a little bit more from Terry Rozier because we didn't see much from him
Terry, yeah, they
last
got him
season.
last
So
year.
that's basically their off-season pickup if you really look at it.
Yep, yeah. If he can, because he didn't play either.
He
He
didn't
was
play.
hurt, and then getting Jimmy. Like if Jimmy's gonna be right
Yeah.
and he gets his money, maybe if Jimmy gets his money, then
I
I'm
wouldn't
worried.
even give him his money yet. I want to say, let's see how this year plays out. I'm not
Yeah,
giving you the money.
100%. Because he is 34, 35. He's in that range. But
Yeah,
man, you can never count them out. That's one thing you can't count them out, man.
absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
always gonna be battling. So they're gonna be interesting. We'll see us play. And they got Coach Spo, man. He's the best coach in the league.
Yeah,
So
I love
they'll
it.
figure it out somehow. They got
Yeah.
some good young pieces too that I like too. All right, the
Mhm.
Milwaukee Bucks, man. They got
Mm.
Dame last year. We thought maybe, all right, this is it. This is gonna be the championship run. Dame's gonna
Mhm.
get his chip, possibly. Like they got a nice team, and then it just went to everything was nasty. AJ Griffin fired and then they said, "Yo,
A
Doc,
debacle.
and you calling games." Yeah. So and then Giannis was hurt for the playoffs. So and just that they looked old. They looked old. So they realized they look old. Got got a little bit younger. They drafted a nice kid in AJ Johnson too, and Tyler Smith out of the G League. I like them. I don't know if they'll get a lot of minutes, but those are guys that I could see, especially AJ. I could see him playing because they need a little bit more youth in that guard spot. Added Gary Trent for the vet min. I think that was a nice pickup. He's a little bit better than Malik Beasley as
Yeah.
far as defensively too. So, but obviously Giannis was hurt. They didn't get far. Talk to me, man. Can Dame and Giannis healthy get can they take do some things in the East?
Two things with the Bucks. One, I think they can do something, but I'm a little put off at the fact that Giannis and Dame didn't link up all summer at all. They don't even talk, bro. They had a they asked both Dame and Giannis, and they both said that they didn't really, talk to each other throughout the season. They didn't work out at all throughout the off season, I should say. So I'm a little bit put off by that because to me, that screams a lack of chemistry. Like they may like each other, like each other as guys off the court. They don't have any problems with each other with each other. I'm not saying anything like that, but
Yeah,
I like my two stars to have unwavering chemistry. And I
100%.
don't know if these guys have it because it's not just on the floor. You got to be off the floor too. You got to hang out a little bit. You got to get to like each other a little bit so that you can trust each other in those late game situations. Now, I think they have the talent on the team, but I'm a
Mm-hmm.
little worried about that. So, and then also
Yeah,
I think you're selling the pickup of Gary Trent Jr. a little short, brother. I love that pickup.
yeah.
I love Gary Trent Jr. I think he's solid for that team. I think he could grow into being a starter. I don't know if he's going to start off the bat, but I think Gary Trent is solid. So I think he's an excellent pickup for them. And obviously, we know they're talented. They're going to be in the one through four, somewhere around that range. But it's all going to depend on who they match up with in that second round if
They're
they get
matchup
there.
dependent. Yeah, very
Yeah, very
matchup
matchup
dependent.
dependent. Knicks
Yeah,
Bucks, that would be a hell of a series. I don't know.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I I think the Dame, and I'll say this quick with Dame. I think when you think you're gonna go to South Beach and you end up in Milwaukee, especially listen,
Yeah,
he went through the divorce. If you were
that
if you're
too.
newly divorced and you could, all right,
It takes a toll
I'm
on
cool,
you.
man. Being in Miami is different. Being in Milwaukee is a lot different than being in Miami. So I still think he's not get over that. So the chemistry you gotta. If it gets off to my thing is, what if it gets off to a nasty start? What if it doesn't? It's not smooth. Like what happens?
I
Like I'm
don't
really
know.
intrigued. In Milwaukee. What happens if they get off to they struggle, and what happens there? Does Giannis start pointing fingers, or do you say we got a new coach? Like I don't know. They're just very intriguing. So that's the one thing I'm
They're
really
on
looking
thin
for.
ice. It's a little
Yeah,
shaky, a little trembly over there in Milwaukee.
they're
But Doc
old.
Rivers there too at the helm, so you know
They're
how he reacts to things
Yeah,
going bad.
exactly. They're an older team, so they're intriguing to watch. All right, gonna cap it off with the team I've been waiting to talk about.
Oh yeah, yo boy.
Let's talk about the New York Knicks. They may obviously we know what they did. The first move was Jalen Brunson taking the extension. We thought he was going to take a lot more, took a lot less. So that was big. Then they get Mikal Bridges gets traded there to Brooklyn. Didn't think that was going to happen. I swear, I did not think that was going to happen.
Me too.
That shocked me. But they paid their price. They paid a hefty price to Brooklyn. They paid an extra tax. They put they added a few things to make that. They paid definitely that borough tax. To get Mikal to come to New York, and then obviously. Yeah. We will not say that his nickname no more. Carl. Carl.
Gotta give him
Carl. Carl is now a New York Knick in the trade. Julius Randle, which got to show mad love to Julius for coming here. He did his thing, became a really good player. And Dante, who all-time single season leader in 3 points, did his thing. That's gonna sting. But obviously another loss. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein. So that was a tough loss. So the New York Knicks, man, I'm still excited regardless of how I felt about the cat trade. I was not a big Karl-Anthony Towns guy, but I buy into what they're trying to do, especially when you got to go against Boston and try to outscore them stuff. But what's your thoughts on what's going on in New York right now? Did you like the move? Do you like what they've done this offseason? Do you think this helps elevate them to maybe get to where they want to be, and that's the NBA Finals?
I love what the Knicks did. Now, listen, I know for some people, it's not the, most popular player that they love bringing in Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a lot of people don't love it. I don't love Karl-Anthony Towns either. I'm never the biggest defender of him, but how I looked at this trade is, right, what they lost in Julius Randle to me was necessary to lose. And I'm going to say it for this. I'm going to say it for this reason. It was going to be a very difficult transition for Julius Randle to come back into this roster this season because of the success the roster had last year. And now it's unequivocally, no questions asked, Jalen Brunson's team.
100%.
So with that being said, the player whose team it formerly was, Julius Randle, you now have to transition yourself into becoming maybe the second best player in the team or becoming a co-star and learning your role now into how can you support Jalen Brunson, because he's going to be the number one option. So
100%.
For a lot of times, I know he could deny it all he wants, but for anyone, that's a difficult transition for any player to make who once thought he was the star. And it's not like act like Julius Randle was washed. He's still in the prime of his career. He can still produce. He can still play well. So he may thought it would have been easy to make that transition back into being the second best, third best player there, because we don't know if he's going to be second best. He could have been the third best with Mikal. He could be the third best, but OG could have been stepping up. You never know how the season was going to go because it's all about how now the players mesh with Jalen Brunson. So I think what the Knicks lost, quote unquote, in Julius Randle is not in terms of production, but in terms of chemistry. So I think that the Karl-Anthony Towns was a good pickup chemistry wise, but it was also a big loss in losing Dante DiVincenzo because he's also a big piece added to the chemistry. So this is a very difficult trade to really evaluate because you don't really know which team won until later on down in the year. So I like the move. It can pay dividends, but it also can work out in a different way. But in terms of talent, I love the move. I love what the Knicks did. And to me, they got better because their ceiling is a lot higher with Karl-Anthony Towns, in my opinion.
I'm with you, man. I'm still getting a feel of this trade. It's still
give me your thoughts. What you thinking, man?
I'm feeling better about it. Like I said, I'm not a big Karl-Anthony Towns guy, but I understand.
But you predicted him coming here.
But I did. And I got receipts too. I got receipts, but yeah, I predicted last year he would be a Knick. Hold
on. Let me stop you real quick. You predicted it, but you didn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I said I was like, yo, the Knicks are gonna make a trade. It's gonna be Karl-Anthony Towns, and I'm not for it. I'm not saying, but I feel like they're gonna make a move. And it took a year later, but they made the move. But I had this feeling they were gonna make a big move. And it's crazy because it's so close to the season that they make such a big move. But I think Mitchell Robinson getting hurt and not having not a lot of big men, they're like, all right, we got to do this. We're all in. They put all their chips in, and you know what? It could backfire. It could backfire on us, and it could look bad. But I'm all for it. Like we mentioned before, like the window in the NBA is smaller than we think, and it's like the Knicks are like, hey, we're all in. We're all in on this. So I'm excited, dog. I'm excited. One more thing before I let you go. I appreciate you being on the show, brother, as always.
Of course, brother.
Give me your Eastern Conference Finals prediction. On the spot.
I was dreading this question because, low key, I'm still very undecided about this right now. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very undecided.
It don't gotta be official. Just what you feeling right now.
Okay, all right.
I know you got your pod. You on your pod, you can do the official check mark, and that's just my. But just what you feeling right now?
So I still don't even know. So that's the thing. I'm truly not lying to you when I say I'm like very, very iffy on it because we kind of talked about some of the things. So I'll give you 3 teams that I'm really wishing at.
All right, yeah, give me 3 teams you think I'm being.
I'll give you 3 teams, but I'll still give you the pick. I'm not gonna be no chump. I'm still gonna give you the 2. So I'm going Boston Celtics.
Okay.
It's either between the 76ers and the New York Knicks for me, right?
I'll take that. I'll take that. As long as the Knicks are in there, I'm cool. You think they're gonna be in the mix? I'm cool. I'm cool with that. I like that.
I said, I really like the 76ers now, like how they line up and how they match up with the Knicks. Like both teams really match up very well, bro. Like that series again, to me, if they play each other in the playoffs, that's gonna be a pick'em series.
Crazy, man.
Pick'em, like 7-game series, no doubt. Yeah. Pick'em, because both teams have advantages where the other team has disadvantages. So, but the one thing is that I don't like Karl Anthony Towns guarding a guy like Joel Embiid if they were to match up.
That's my thing, man. That's my concern. That's my
concern. That's gonna be trouble.
But
who you got coming out the East, brother? Who you got?
I'm going with the New York Knicks versus the 76ers Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, no Celtics.
No Celtics.
Oh, wow. Wait, all right. Who do you think is going to take out the Celtics, though?
Either Philly or New York. Regardless, how the
bracket. You think the Knicks could take out the Celtics in the series?
They could take them out.
Wow. All right. I like that. I like that.
They're taking them out.
I like that, brother. I like that.
I think they could take them out. I think so. I truly believe that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But my brother, Just, I appreciate you hopping on. This is our Eastern Conference preview off the ball podcast. Man, it's been a joy to have you on the pod, brother.
Of course. Yo, I love the invite, man. I appreciate the invite every time. We definitely got to get you on my show again coming up in the season when I start getting back into the groove. We always do our draft episodes. We always have our Wemby shit that a lot of our stuff came true that we talked about.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, brother, I appreciate the invite, and I love always talking hoops with you, man. The Eastern Conference is going to be rocking. The West is going to be rocking. And we in for a hell of a season, man. We're getting to, it's starting to ramp up. We need the energy back going to the NBA because I feel like, it's been a little low for the past
It really has. It really has.
I thought I was bugging. I thought I was tripping a little bit, but I was like, damn, the energy around the NBA is like mad low coming into this season. But hopefully it'll ramp up a little bit. I think I hope is Bronny playing tonight. I think he might be playing. Could be in the preseason thing. So we'll get a little bit of action. But I'm intrigued with this season, brother. I really am. And I appreciate the invite as always, brother. Of course.
I appreciate you coming on the pod, man. Like I said, first person I thought Eastern Conference, I hit up my guy Justin to get him on the pod. But brother, like I said, appreciate you coming on. We're definitely gonna have you back during the season to talk more. Like I said, a lot of things going on in the league, a lot of intriguing matchups, a lot of intriguing players, all around the whole association and all that. But appreciate you again, my man. Off the Ball podcast, Eastern Conference preview in the books. NBA season is slowly approaching. So we'll have more stuff going on off the ball podcast. Like I said, just going to be on during the season. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care.